Fourth Sunday of Easter. And if you hadn't guessed already from the readings and the responsorial psalm and the opening song, it's Good Shepherd Sunday. It's the World Day of Prayer for Vocations. And it's Mother's Day. Thanks for letting me preach today. Seriously, what we're here about tonight, I think, is actually quite simple. You know, several months ago as we entered into Lent, we talked about the meaning of the 40 days of Lent. Those 40 days, that special time of preparation, not only for Easter itself, but for the mission that we would be given by the resurrected Christ. And I think if we look at what we've gone through since Easter, the readings of the church are quite clear. Up to now, the reality of the resurrection has still been sinking in. And you hear that in the readings. We got the appearances, the people going to the tomb and finding it empty and seeing angels, and the appearances of Christ to those early disciples. Then last week, the disciples on the road to Emmaus discovering Christ in the breaking of bread. It was all about the reality of the resurrection. But the tone seems to shift a bit today. Now it's like, okay, we understand, we get it, we accept in faith that Christ has risen. Now what? What does the fact that Christ has risen now mean to us as disciples? And we begin to speak about discipleship, about that mission that we've been thinking about since Lent. How is the Lord calling each of us to mission? In what specific ways? And even that becomes quite graphic in today's gospel. You know, the notion of a shepherd in Jesus' day, we have these pastoral images sometimes of the gentleness of the shepherd and the sheep. And sometimes our holy cards in the old days used to be like that. You know, everything was so gentle and nice. Being a shepherd was not a nice job. It was a tough job. The sheep were sheep, but the shepherd had to fight off wolves and bandits and robbers, as you hear in the gospel today. They had to be tough, hard men. And yet they had to be able to be gentle enough to call the sheep forth. Jesus uses an extremely interesting image today. He says, I am the gate. What's interesting about that image is that what a shepherd would do in Jesus' day is he would take the flock, sometimes joining it with other shepherds, and they would put them up against some kind of a bluff or some area where the sheep were protected from behind. And they would erect barricades as they had to around the sides. And then the shepherds would lie down on the ground as the gate. When Jesus says, I am the gate, he means it literally. Anyone who wanted to come in and get to those sheep had to literally go over the body of the shepherd. Laying down our lives for a friend becomes graphically real when Jesus says, I am the gate. That giving of ourselves for others, regardless of how we are called and to what specific ministry we are called by Christ, is really what these readings are all about. I came across a homily that Pope Francis gave last week. And he was recalling the martyrdom of St. Stephen, the first martyr of the New Testament. And listen to what the Pope has to say. And so we can say that a Christian follows in the footsteps of Christ to bear witness to him. And many times this witness ends up in laying down one's life. We are not a religion of ideas, of pure theology, of beautiful things, of commandments. No, we are a people who follow Jesus Christ, who want to bear witness to Jesus Christ. And sometimes this witness leads to laying down our lives. And he repeats this theme over and over in this homily. This is what characterizes us as a Christian people. Now, as we ask ourselves, what is God calling me to? Could God be calling me to an ordained ministry, to profess religious, to be the best married people we can be, the vocation of marriage? All of us are given vocation. In fact, all of us are given multiple vocations from God. The day we are baptized, we have a vocation. We are called to serve. And many of us take on many other vocations from God in our lives. All of them involve laying down our lives for others. As we celebrate Mother's Day, what is it about motherhood that we celebrate? Were our mothers always the smartest women in the world? Some were. But what was most noteworthy about our mothers? Their love. Their unconditional love for their children. And the fact that they would give anything. They would give their lives for their children. It's the same kind of service, the same kind of love that we are all called to as disciples. Laying down our lives for each other. The true vocation of every Christian. How is the Lord calling you?